Morning, everybody. Good morning. If you're just joining us, we are live on LinkedIn, and we're going to get started with our bacon and coffee show today. I have a great guest, you guys. We're going to have a lot of fun. So here we go. All right. And here is your audio video version of caffeine. You ready? Here we go. Oh. All right, welcome everybody. How you doing this morning? It is Bacon and Coffee, and our special guest today is Ted Prodromou, and we're digging the bacon mugs, baby. So those of you who don't know, anybody who's been a guest on the show, on the Bacon podcast primarily, and everybody I've had on this has been on the Bacon podcast, they get a mug. So I mug all my guests. And how did it feel? Did it hurt, Ted, when I mugged you?
It was great to get that in the mail. It was a big surprise, actually.
And it's a great mug. It really is. I love it. So you have been a guest on the Bacon podcast. You were episode 79 and 457. So that's quite a stretch. I'm coming up on 666. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. Yeah. So, but let my audience know a little bit more about you and tell them, where you're at, what you do, and all that kind of fun stuff. So,
yeah, I live in the San Francisco area, and I've been doing this marketing thing for 20 years now, actually. I got certified as a coach in 2001. Quickly realized I had no idea how to market. So I started going to Dan Kennedy conferences, met Perry Marshall. Been doing the whole thing, Google AdWords, did Facebook ads, did websites over the years, but the last 10 years I've been focused on LinkedIn. So.
Gotcha. And you started out like me in the corporate world, because I started out at AT&T. You started out at IBM, right? What'd you do for IBM? What was that all about?
Before IBM, I worked for DEC, the mini computer company, and became a network manager at Cellular One when Cellular was just starting up. I was employee number 40 at Cellular One in San Francisco. I remember we had a big party for 1,000 subscribers.
Wow. You were employee number 40?
Yeah.
So you went from there to IBM, and then you started in 2001. So what made you leave IBM and start becoming a LinkedIn coach, or just a coach in general?
Oh, the LinkedIn job was basically you're on the road all the time. You go to corporations and interview people all day, and then you go back to your hotel room and write up these giant reports that pretty much didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. But they gushed because it was like 300 pages of interviews.
Yeah.
It was the most unfulfilling job, because we'd make recommendations about here's the infrastructure you need to build for your computer network, but we didn't get to implement it, and we never knew if they'd implemented it. A different part of IBM would implement it.
Interesting. So
I had 2 young kids at home. My wife was not happy that I was on the road about 250 days a year, and it was just not very fulfilling.
No, I hear you, and all the politics that goes along with all that stuff too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're in there interviewing these executives, and they're all protecting their turf, and you're trying to take their turf away. And I'm like, no, I'm just here asking questions.
Yeah, I just want to play in your sandbox. I don't want to take it away from you.
Right.
So that's very interesting. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is like what's new with LinkedIn, because you're always like on the cutting edge. I mean, do they feed you like secrets in your inbox? Do they tell you kind of things, or how'd you get working with LinkedIn directly? Because that's one of the coolest things about you, is you're working with them as opposed to just finding out like we are just by logging in and finding something different, right?
Yeah, they found me through a Google alert, if you can believe that.
Wow. So it works.
Yeah, and this PR firm reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's some people at LinkedIn would like to ask you some questions." I said, "Sure." So they set up a conference call and we were talking. They go, "You actually make a living teaching people how to use LinkedIn? Why do people need help learning how to use LinkedIn?" And like, oh my God.
Have you looked at your interface lately, people?
Yeah, it depends what your purpose is. You're trying to find a job, you're trying to hire employees, are you trying to grow your business? There's lots of ways to use it.
Right. And there's not only so many different ways to use it, but there's so many different ways to misuse it. And that's one of the biggest challenges is I think people, you can't take what you do on Facebook and translate it over to here because this is truly a business to business network. I mean, there's some unwritten rules like, people don't like memes and cat videos, and they certainly don't want to talk about politics. And they, there's an occasional beatdown when you see a political post or something like that, or people get unfollowed, right?
Or there's like a million comments.
Yeah,
that's into a bloodbath within seconds.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the unwritten rules, And so
what LinkedIn emojis too? You forgot those.
Oh yeah, I forgot LinkedIn emojis. Yeah, well, you got LinkedIn emojis and hashtags, and I mean, there's one of the things I saw a poll is a poll this week. It says, "What do you think of these stupid polls?"
Right, I saw that too.
It's like people get these new features and they're using them. Like one of the ones I discovered last week for the first time is this LinkedIn Live. If you go to my profile, which is B Basilico, go to LinkedIn/IN/B Basilico, you'll actually see the LinkedIn Live replace the banner, which is new to me. I didn't even realize that was happening. So
yeah, they're really getting the LinkedIn Lives rolling out. LinkedIn events are getting really popular.
Mm-hmm.
Those are working really well.
Yeah, and I use LinkedIn events. I wish that there was a better way to interface those. It seems like it's kind of like everything in LinkedIn is a challenge. It's like when LinkedIn had Pulse and you produced articles and put stuff in there, it was awesome. It's like you got a bunch of people seeing it now, articles, and since they've stopped calling it Pulse, it's like the articles are not getting nearly as much engagement and attention. I mean, groups have changed. I mean, there's so many different things about it. It still has value in a lot of ways, but I think that some of the things have kind of dwindled, and part of it's because of misuse, wouldn't you say? And part of it's because of just the motif that we're in, the Zoom world.
Marketers find something that works and they just kill it.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
It's like everybody's rushing to see how fast we can kill this.
Yeah, and
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I find too is a lot of people who are quote unquote gurus. There's two different philosophies or multiple philosophies. I mean, if you're looking for a job, it's one thing. If you're a salesperson, that's another thing. And you get these people coming on and saying, okay, here's what you do with LinkedIn. You connect with full 30,000 people and you message everybody. And sooner or later, you're going to hit somebody, right? Somebody is going to want to connect with you. But there's a huge flaw in that philosophy, right? So tell us about your take on that concept.
Yeah, it's essentially the new version of robocalling or spamming people. Just blast enough emails or cold calling. Call 100 people, you might get someone to answer the phone. Call 1,000 people, you might get a sale. So the aggressive marketers have software now that they just blast invitations to connect. They just search for a job title. They blast away and send these soft sales pitches in the invitation. If you do accept, then you're going to get 3 or 5 messages over the next week that are sales pitches. And then they'll go find your email address and start hitting you on your personal email address. Then they'll start calling your phone. So they're relentless. It's like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that is, kind of kills the vibe inside of there. And you and me use it, we use it kind of in parallel, but slightly differently, and the core of everything I've done with all of my books is about relationships. I mean, I am firmly in the camp of the human to human relationship side of things, where at one time, I think I had like 6,000 or 8,000 people in my LinkedIn, and I pared that back at one point to 1,500. I mean, I said, get rid of the chaff. And now it's back up to about 4,000. And that's because of things that happened during the pandemic, where I've met a lot of new people and they are relevant to me, and people actually, I was on your show. I think it was Tuesday this week, but It was, it's on your profile. Somebody can go to your profile and see it. But I got 3 connections. Said, I heard you on Ted's show. It was really cool. And I love the bacon motif. And you had one person, Judy, was talking about my books and my author page. And, they had some relevant connection to why they wanted to connect, right. and there was a purpose behind it. It wasn't just, hey, I want to connect with you so I can pitch you and, hopefully have you buy my crap. And I think that's the biggest difference between the human to human connection and relationship marketing, and taking the time to get to know somebody and just, connecting with them and sending your stuff. Right.
Yeah. Years ago, I would search for job titles, and then I would view their profiles, and I would change my profile to make it look like I could help them if I look for attorneys or something, or coaches. And to view enough profiles, you could view 1,000 profiles a day, like 7 or 8 years ago with software. I think I was using Duck Soup at the time. And I would just view a bunch of profiles. Those people would come back and connect with me instead of me reaching out and connecting with them. And it never really worked that well. Yeah. I've got like 23,000 connections. I got to clean it up.
Yeah, that's a tough one to clean up, because there's no easy way to bulk delete. You have to go into every single one.
99% of the people you never hear from again, though. But
yeah, exactly. I've read some statistics, and I'm sure some of this has changed, but I mean, 50% of the people on LinkedIn generally will never comment, like, or share anything. They just consume. Right. And those are the active users, and that doesn't include all the people who aren't active. And, what you were talking about, things like Duck Soup. I was on a Clubhouse meeting a few weeks ago, and the owner of Seamless AI, I think it's called. Are you familiar with that?
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they give you a free account. I'm constantly trying new things, and I'll try free accounts just to see how it works. And the one thing about that is I signed up for the free account, and I mean, they hit me up with like 20 emails, and they called my house, and they did all this stuff. And it's like, okay, if this is what your software is used for, I don't want any part of it. I mean, they gave me such a bad impression on the software in the way that they were pitching me. It's like, are you using this to do this to other people? And that's not the way I work. And so it just immediately, their marketing gave me a bad taste about using their product. And they're calling you because they want you to subscribe to their upsell. Right. And it's like, why? If this is what it's used for, I don't want any part of it. Right.
And I had that happen. It was a couple of years ago, actually. I connected with someone. They did Christian websites. I thought, well, web developers and people that own agencies are good referral partners for me. They, they're connected with a lot of people. They're building a new website. They may need help with LinkedIn.
Right.
So I connected with this woman, thinking, maybe that'll work out to something. She called me like 10 seconds after I accepted her invitation.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, do you need help with LinkedIn? I'm like, well, your website, your LinkedIn profile says you do Christian websites. And she goes, well, we do LinkedIn too. I said, but it doesn't say that in your profile. I said, did you read my profile? She goes, oh, yeah, I read your profile. Like, no, you didn't, because I said I'm doing LinkedIn consulting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I get that all the time.
And she kept trying to sell me LinkedIn consulting services. And then she put her boss on the phone. He's trying to sell me LinkedIn marketing services. And like, do you guys look at my profile?
No, they haven't. One of my favorite ones was I got this direct message. I connected with somebody, and I got a direct message said, hey, we've got this great new program. It's audio based, and it helps you do yada, 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 yada. This is before Clubhouse and stuff like that. And I emailed back and I said, but I have a podcast. What's the difference between what you do and a podcast? I don't mind talking to people about new technologies. I meet them and interview them all the time on the podcast. I interviewed a guy from England who had this gamification tool, which is really cool, where you can do a scratch off or spin the dial or something like that. And hey, you can hear me, but I think my computer locked up. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're frozen, but that's okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in the main position, and I'm going to let you talk for a little bit because I'm going to have to reboot, and hopefully it doesn't kill this. I don't think it will, but it happens. This is the technology. It's like sometimes, and I know exactly what it is. It's one particular app. So I'm gonna have to bounce out of here. Let me see. I can't jump into StreamYard. But let me see if I can do it from a different computer. Well, anyways, so tell us a little bit about some of the tools that you've been using in LinkedIn recently. What are some of the new discoveries that you've had?
The LinkedIn events I've been testing a lot. That's been working really well because you can create an event from your personal profile, or you can create it from your company page. So they have two different ways to do it. So I've been testing that for some clients and with my own stuff, and actually gets a lot of organic views when you do it just from your personal profile. And then you can create it from your company page. You can actually have like a LinkedIn form they fill out and register for the event. So I've talked to one friend of mine who does a lot of research on this, and he's been getting 80% show up rate when he does webinars that he promotes from his company page and makes them do the LinkedIn login. And then once the event's over, you can download that information and then follow up with those people. Or if through LinkedIn, you can follow up with them with a follow-up message after the event. But they won't let you keep spamming them through LinkedIn. You can send one email follow-up after the event. Or you can get them bring them over to your network, like you bring them into Nimble. You can follow up with them there and say, hey, thanks for coming to my webinar. And you don't just start marketing to them after that. You say, thanks for coming to the webinar. If you have any questions, let me know. Just keep a conversation going there. You don't start really hard pitch them unless they're interested in what you offered in the webinar, obviously. But the events are good. One of the downsides of the events, we're kind of frustrated. We were trying to promote a webinar for a client last week. Like, well, can I boost this event? And somewhere I saw on the site, you can boost events like Facebook boosting posts. But there's nowhere in there. You have to basically set up a sponsored content ad on your company page as opposed to just boosting the event. So it's one of those places where LinkedIn's leaving a lot of money on the table. It's pretty typical. They have a lot of great ideas, and it seems like they don't follow them through as well as they can. And then people stop using it. LinkedIn ignores it for a while, then it comes back. So hopefully they'll fix this events. I've been reaching out to some of my contacts at LinkedIn to see, when can we boost these events? Because it's a golden opportunity. We can run ads, they can make money, we can get our events in front of more people. One of the good things about the events, though, once you create the event, you can send it out to your friends, your first level connections. You can invite them to the event. So you have to go through one at a time. You can't do bulk invitations. But you can invite up to 1,000 people every week to your event. So if you have an event 2 weeks out, you can go through your list, your first level contacts. If it's like maybe talking to CPAs, you can search for all the CPAs you're connected to on your LinkedIn network and invite them to your webinar. That would be helpful to them. So that just some of the things we're doing. And LinkedIn ads is changing. They're really finally figuring that out. It's running some ads for a client. We were getting some pretty decent conversions for a webinar. And it was not that much. It was $2.72 a click for LinkedIn ads.
That's really good, because I've said that I've done some LinkedIn work with ads, and they've been ranging. When I've talked to them, they said that basically the click-through rates have been in the 1 to 2%, and that the ads were averaging around $8. And so getting it down to $2 is really good.
Yeah, we're getting webinar registrations for about $25 a person.
It's 25. Yeah. So basically your cost per acquisition is about $25. So that's really good.
And the guy was selling a $25,000 year-long coaching package.
Wow. That's really good. That's really good.
That shocked me. It's like, wow, that's just so much better than it was even 6 months ago.
Right. So what is it about events? I mean, I heard you talking about that when I had to reboot, and now I finally made it back in. And thank you for holding down the fort for me, because it just happens sometimes. It's like all of a sudden the computer just says, "Nah, not so much." I mean, the technology is so that there's so much new and old technology mix. Sometimes it just gives me grief.
Yep.
But with events, what are you finding with events that's working so well? Because even like this LinkedIn Live, I set up an event, I put it out there, I invite people. It seems like it's really hard to find.
Yeah.
They're not making it super easy, and the ability to do personal events versus business page events. I mean, they're really pushing for the business page events, but it's so hard to get people to like a business page.
You can't even search for events through the search. You think at the top, in the main search box, you could select events.
Right.
I want to find some events about marketing on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
There's no way to search for them. They just have to kind of notice it in your news feed.
And that's one of the challenges that I have with it. It's just A, it's not easy to find. B, it's not integrated enough. But I think that it's something like, this is a LinkedIn Live. This is going through LinkedIn.
Right.
And you'd think they'd want to be able to promote keeping people on the platform for an hour. Isn't that in their best interest? They serve up more ads. They get more people engaged. I mean, you'd think they'd want to promote these things more. So what am I missing here?
Yeah. Plus, if you could boost the event and get in front of more people, they're going to make money. You're going to make money because more people are going to get to know you.
Right.
It's a win-win. So that's some of the gaps they have in their. They just really don't follow the idea all the way to the end.
Right. And that's one of the biggest challenges with LinkedIn is there's so many disconnected pieces. I talked originally about, groups and about, articles and things that used to be a lot more integrated into your profile. And I mean, they're there, but there's new things that are popping up all the time now that, I'm seeing different people talking about that. Sometimes I have and sometimes I don't. Like I said, for the LinkedIn Lives, now my banner is replaced with this live. That's a new one. I also noticed in my profile, and I'm scrolling down and looking at it, I was able to add, some featured tools. So I can go in and add some of those. There's all kinds of new, there's some other things that I haven't gotten yet that, I'm trying to remember what it was I saw the other day and I was playing around looking for it, but it was something about, I don't know. What kind of new things have you found, or what are some of the newer things that are just rolling out that people don't know about?
They're going to be rolling out in your banner.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to do probably a 1-minute promotional video for your services.
Mm-hmm.
So your banner image will be replaced. If somebody comes to your profile, it'll actually pop up a video. I'm guessing it'll be about a minute.
That's exactly what I was looking at. Yeah, I saw somebody else talk about that. How are you using this? And they were asking, and it's like, I don't have it
not
yet.
out yet. Yeah, they just announced it this week. So sometimes it can take 6 months to a year to actually.
Yeah,
see it.
Yeah.
They roll things out very slowly.
They do. Yeah. And the thing is they don't do it with much, they like true social media platforms. I mean, one of the things about the old days, I mean, I'm going back years now, I'm talking way back in the 1990s when we had to walk uphill to school both
Before
ways
the
in
internet.
the snow. Right. Yeah. We used to get these boxes of software and it came with these things called manuals. And it was like the thing weighed 50 pounds,
Right.
And you'd get the software and then you'd have to read through the manual. And then all of a sudden everything went online. And now there are no discs that you buy anymore. There's no software. Then enter social media where there is no software, there is no disc, there is no manual. It's like, hey, guess what? It changed, and it just pops up and surprises you, you know? And I just think that from a business to business standpoint, shouldn't there be a more formal process? I know that not everybody gets everything equally at the same time, but shouldn't there be a more formal process of rolling out these things and, educating people about them and, talking through them and stuff of that nature? Yeah,
like they made an announcement probably 2 years ago that everyone's going to get LinkedIn Live.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to apply, and you still have to apply, and they reject like 90% of people till you keep reapplying and you meet whatever criteria they're looking for. It took me 5 attempts to get it.
Yep.
And I don't know if you got accepted easily, but
well, no, I wasn't accepted easily. As a matter of fact, it took me probably 2 years, and I was trying to do it not only for myself, but I was trying to do it for and you have no idea what the criteria is. And the way that I got it is I was doing work with my client and they were spending, upwards of a few $1,000s a month in LinkedIn ads. And then all of a sudden they decided to send me something in the mail and they said, well, we need your home address, because obviously that's not in LinkedIn. And I said, sure, and I gave him my address and I said, if you really want to give me a gift and send me a gift, get me LinkedIn Live. Well, when I talked to that person, they connected up with somebody and finally they did it, but I still haven't been able to get my client a LinkedIn Live. We're doing live webinars and we can't post them there. We can post them everywhere else, but we can't post them on LinkedIn. And so it's frustrating. The companies that actually want to provide information that's of use to business people inside of there is one thing. Yeah. There are so many people that have LinkedIn Lives that I've watched a handful of them. It's like, hi, the sky's blue. I'm here to tell you all about what's going on in my world, and it's like, we want that. That's called a podcast. That's YouTube. That's not LinkedIn.
Right. People like to come on and just give us advice that we don't need.
Right. Exactly. And why does that need to be alive? Why does that need to be an event? What is it that, is the value that's for the other? I mean, if they're finding value in it, God bless them. But
I know people had never done any video online or any live videos like Facebook Lives, and they got LinkedIn Live right at the beginning.
Which is crazy. Yeah. You think
and they're like, I don't know why. They just sent me a message and they gave it to me.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. And I know a bunch of people that have LinkedIn Live who don't use it on a regular basis. And, that's fine. But I just find this disjointedness of the whole system kind of crazy. So tell us what's happening with Sales Navigator, because I've been a user, a non-user, user, a non-user. I keep going forth and back and forth. And there's a reason for that. And it's because I feel like the data that it stores is great, but it's only accessible inside of LinkedIn, right. So it's one of those kind of things where, I need that data in different places, so that it's great in certain ways, but in other ways it's kind of confining, right?
Yeah. Well, if you use Salesforce or some of the big CRMs, you can export a lot of your activity. Mm-hmm. They have direct connections, but, we don't use Salesforce to that level. Anything like that. Mm-hmm. They don't have integrations to like Nimble yet, or even I think they finally integrate with the Microsoft. What do they call Dynamics now?
Yeah, Dynamics, right? Or Nav. You
think that'd be the first one they integrate with?
Yeah, considering they're the same damn company, right?
But it is what it is. Salesforce is much bigger, obviously.
Yes. Well, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. There's no question about that. But what are some of the new things that in Sales Navigator that most people aren't aware of that have changed recently?
Something came out last year. Smart Links was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So if you send a proposal to a client or you send some information, ebook to a client, it actually tells you if they opened it and how long they read it.
That's cool.
I sent an ebook to some clients, and some people read it for like 30 seconds, and some people read it for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you can actually see if they looked at your proposal.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I looked at your proposal. No, you didn't.
Right. Well, and you're not going to call them out because then they'll, they know that you're stalking them.
Right, exactly. It can get creepy, but that's a really powerful tool that I'm starting to use more and more now because you send people some information. You want to know if they actually looked at it.
Right, exactly. So what else are you finding in there? What else is cool?
They keep adding to the searches. Mm-hmm. So if you want to find a company that has a sales team of like 5 to 20 people. So you can actually do a search, show me all the companies in the US with a sales team of 5 to 20 sales reps. Mm-hmm. They can even say, show me the companies that are growing their sales department 25% or more a year. You can set the percentage. So, hey, here's a bunch of sales teams that are growing. Then you can start connecting with those companies. You follow the company, and then Sales Navigator says, okay, here are the decision makers you need to connect with.
So have you found by doing that is there certain things that you're doing that are better than just cold calling those companies? Like, hey, I see that you're growing. Do you need help? It's like one of those kind of things. I mean, the intelligence is great, but, does it work? Does it give you any kind of leg up? I mean, how are you connecting with those people?
Well, I kind of discovered people have Sales Navigator and they never get trained on it. LinkedIn
Mhm.
has some videos, but it's like I used to coach my son's little league team 20 years ago.
Right.
And now these kids are in their late 20s and they're doing sales. So
Mhm.
they're reaching out to me and they're saying, hey, can you show me how to use Sales Navigator?
Awesome. So are you, is that what you're doing? Is you're looking for sales teams that are growing and asking if they're using Sales Navigator and if they need training, and are they responding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Even just reaching out to certain sales reps where you post content about it, little tips.
Mhm.
People say, thank you so much. I didn't know Sales Navigator did that. It's like everything on LinkedIn or any tool, Excel, Word,
Right.
you use like 10% and you really don't figure out the rest of it. You're so busy. Same with Sales Navigator. You use the basics. Most people just use it to search for people.
Right.
But
And
they
that's
don't
what, yeah, that's
follow the
exactly what they
companies.
do, is they search it and they try to categorize them, but they never reach out to them, or do
Right.
they?
Right.
And if they do, are they reaching out in a way that is amicable towards their business,
Right. Exactly. It's like, hey, I noticed you're on LinkedIn. Want to buy from me?
Yeah, right. And the
That's
answer
some of
to
the
that is
invitations I get
usually
lately. Hey, we have
no.
something in common. Let's connect. Like, what do we have in common?
Right. Yeah, it's always a
And you can
challenge.
tell that's a dead giveaway. They're using automated software because they'll search for, like, I have the word coach in my profile. They'll say, hey, I noticed we have some common connections, or we have some things in common. Like,
Yes, I get that all the time. It's like, hey, we have a lot of common connections on here, and I go look at their profile, and it's 2.
and then and in the invitation, the capital C coach, so they can tell they search for a specific keyword.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
That's relationship marketing at its best.
Yeah, no, at its worst, people, don't listen to this man. Don't listen to him, but do listen to him on other stuff. So what are some of the other things aside from the smart links and the better searches and stuff like that you found? What's some of the newer cool things?
They added some training videos within it. They're very basic just to show you the fundamentals, but they're really trying to get people to use it more. I mean, a lot of companies have it, but they're not really taking advantage of all the different features. Like lists, you can build lists of people that have a certain, like I gave away a LinkedIn cheat sheet. I did a video and held up a piece of paper. Here's my LinkedIn cheat sheet. Want a copy? So we tagged everybody that asked for it in Sales Navigator. And I had over 103,000 video views on that, right when video first came on.
Wow.
And I had thousands of people. Actually, my assistant and I went crazy. We weren't ready for the response. So we had to reach out to all the people. We actually sent it to them directly on LinkedIn instead of getting their personal email. But we went into Sales Navigator and made a list of everybody in the US at certain company sizes. I have a list of like 2,900 people that downloaded that.
Wow.
So they're like pre-qualified leads that want to learn more how to use LinkedIn basics.
Right. So then what do you do beyond that? You got 2,900 people on the list. They've downloaded your stuff. Are you using any kind of targeting to, basically tickle the ivories with them, so to speak?
That's the downside of it. I can't message those 2,900 people directly. I have to go one at a time and reach out to them.
Right. So
you can kind of see if they're active. Whenever they're active, comment on their stuff or just reach out every once in a while. So, hey, I noticed you downloaded my cheat sheet. If you have any questions, let me know. A lot of times that'll lead to a deeper conversation.
So instead of automating the process, in other words, like sending them a bulk message, say, hey, just wanted to touch bases. You have any questions and things like that, which would be handy. It's not like you're trying to, it depends on the motif in which you send it. If you send it so it's like, hey, now that you've downloaded my stuff, you need to come to my 3-day workshop for only $9.97. Yeah, it's half price today, that kind of stuff. But if you could,
that's like a very entry level cheat sheet, like the very basics of LinkedIn. So it'd be a long road to actually get a client that I'd want to work with, rather than putting them in my LinkedIn course.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that if there's a way to, again, one of the things that we talked about, and we've talked about Nimble. I mean, I just interviewed John Ferrara for the second time. He's the guy that invented Goldmine and also invented this new thing called Nimble, which is online, which integrates with LinkedIn. And what he came on and talked about back in the day when we were doing, our Rolodexes were, like address books, and then it went to true Rolodexes where you could put cards and information or write stuff on them, and then, basically turn the dial and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Microsoft came out and added Outlook, which included, it was Outlook, but it was an integrated suite of your calendar and your contacts and your email. And now Apple has that, and so does everybody else. Mm-hmm. But the biggest problem is finding a centralized location where not only you have that information, because if you put it into Outlook, it kind of sits on an island. If you put it into LinkedIn, it sits on an island. When you get it into a CRM, then you have, fingers into LinkedIn and back from LinkedIn, and you have fingers into Outlook and back from Outlook and Gmail and all of those things. So, getting an integrated thing where you can actually track that's the other question too, is are you using Sales Navigator to track the engagements with these people? Are you making notes of every time you send them something? Are you going back and reviewing those? Are you, acting upon it? Does it send you alerts? I mean, does it do all that stuff?
That's where they fall short.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's good about Nimble. You can just hover over the name on LinkedIn and it'll put it into your Nimble.
Right.
Then you can tag them, and then you can follow up. Say, hey, I talked to John the other day. Here's what we talked about. They used to have some of that in LinkedIn, and they took it away. Then those alerts, like follow up with someone 30 days from now that you talked to.
Right.
They took that stuff away.
Yeah. And see, that's why I think that the integration process of getting it into something where you can get those reminders. I mean, I can go to, I can open up another tab over here. Let me do this and go to Nimble.
I haven't really used the Microsoft. What do they call the new version? Do you know?
Which one is
Dynamics?
That? Oh yeah, no, Dynamics is and I've got a client who uses it. It's Nav is their kind of person integrator. So let me see if this share is going to work. I gotta hit a share again here. So bear with me one sec, because when my computer froze up, I ran into an issue. So here we go. So there's my system as it's set up. Yeah. And so I got to put my glasses on to see my own stuff. So, it gives me the stay in touch. It gives you the email tracking and stuff like that. So, it's like if I go to somebody, the nice thing about it is, here's Brian G. Johnson, who's a buddy of mine. I can just go to his profile if I want to, or I can go to any one of these people's profiles, and I can add tags and notes and all that kind of other stuff into it. So, that's a nice thing. So if I go search Brian here, G.
Yeah, he's the YouTube master.
Yes, he is the YouTube master. So, this shows me like all the emails that we've had, the conversations that we've had. I can also immediately go to social and just, click on his LinkedIn profile and, get to his LinkedIn profile, his Twitter profile, all those kind of things are all kind of in here. So I can kind of keep an eye on, specifically what kind of engagements we're having and what kind of signals, he's sending in YouTube and sending in other platforms. And so that's one of the things I love about that is just the ability to, take the data and kind of bring it all together.
And you can do that with Sales Navigator and Salesforce.
Right. Yeah.
But it's only like the enterprise level they're letting us do that.
Yeah, but that's the key. It's like for the smaller guys, you've got to find some way, I just look at centralizing the data in one way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah.
What emails did you send? What social engagements have you had? What are you keeping notes? Like one of the things that I do is I use Lunch Club. Are you in Lunch Club?
No.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
No.
Okay. So Lunch Club is kind of like, it's like Tinder for business people, but not quite that funky. And the bottom line is you go on Lunch Club and you sign up for it. And I'll send you an invite. And if anybody else wants it, just contact me and I'll be happy to send you an invite. But what it does is it matches you up. You pick and choose what you want to do. You want to meet once a week. You want to meet every other week. And it matches you up with somebody based on whatever you put in your profile. So you can meet interesting people. You can meet people in the same business. I can meet sales leaders. I can meet, and a lot of times these are C-level people or higher ups. And the whole concept behind here is not to sell anything. It's just to get together and have a conversation.
Right.
And I met a guy yesterday out of LA, and we had a blast. We had a great convo. We're kind of in similar industries but different, and we had this parallel of the music business, and we talked a lot about music, and we talked about he was an executive for Sony on tours. He would go around with the artists and set up all the the interactions between them and the press, and make sure that the press would get their press passes so they could get into the shows and interview the people live. And it was an amazing conversation. This is somebody I want to stay in touch with. So I can easily go to LinkedIn, make a connection with them, save it in Nimble, and tag it as Lunch Club. And now all of a sudden, there's some context around all of this stuff.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest challenges with SalesNav is like, $80 a month. Yes, I can find people to connect with, but what else can I do with it? I'm always looking, and I'm not trying to be, negative Nelly, but for $80 a month, I would expect it to have more of those kind of like engagement, relationship, and tracking features.
Because they integrate more. A lot of it, and they took it away.
Yeah, but why? Do you know?
No, I don't know why. Like the reminder, simple thing, like, hey, follow up with this guy in 7 days.
Mm-hmm. And Beth's
you got Nimble now.
Yes, no, well, or Nimble or Salesforce or whatever other CRM. I mean, you could use Sugar, you can use all those other things. I mean, it's not as elegant as Nimble's kind of like the poor man's version of Salesforce, without all the bloat.
Right. It's perfect for small business owners.
Yeah. And Beth said, Lunch Club, who knew? Boldly brilliant. So thank you, Beth. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's managing those relationships that I think is really key. I mean, I've been in business for 20 plus years, as I know you've been, doing your thing as well. And it's like, I want to keep track of the old people, and don't mean old people as in, get off my lawn. I mean, old people as, people I used to work with 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
And stay in touch with them. I had a woman who I worked at Arthur Andersen in 2001. She just sent me a LinkedIn message yesterday saying, hey, my son's in Chicago and does creative things. Do you know any agencies that are looking for somebody of his ilk? And it's like, I haven't heard from her in years. But the thing is, it's like, staying in touch, you never know where that relationship is going to go. If I can help her son find something, she might help me find something. It's the Bob Berg, law of reciprocity kind of philosophy in working in LinkedIn, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing they're doing, they're integrating with Office 365 a lot.
Okay.
You send me an email on Office 365. I hover over your name. It pulls up your LinkedIn profile snippet.
Ah, okay. So
I don't have to go to LinkedIn, but still there's that gap. Like say I wanted to tag you and say, hey, we talked on Friday. Let's follow up in 3 weeks. That's not there unless you go to Nimble or Salesforce.
Right. But I think that's one of the things that, is the power behind, using LinkedIn and integrating that data is you can do that. And I think that's one of the things that, and you tell me in your world, I mean, you're doing a lot of LinkedIn training, you're doing Salesforce training, you're doing consulting and coaching and those kind of things. I mean, what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about LinkedIn? Because I could start with one. Is a lot of the C-level people I talk to are afraid to let their employees use it as a tool because they feel like it's primarily headhunters chasing down their people and trying to take them away, right? What are some of the other things like that you've heard?
That's the big one. Obviously, if you're active on LinkedIn, the recruiter's going to be looking for you.
Right. So what are some of the other objections that you're getting? Is it too many connections of people trying to sell me stuff? I mean, what's the
big thing is now everybody's pitching you. They don't try to get to know you. They're just like, let me just blast messages at Ted till he disconnects from me or
submits to my sales prowess.
Right. Well, yesterday somebody sent me a message. I was like, okay, I'll connect with this person. And I said, hey, I'm interested in learning more about what you do, because I think my clients could really use your service.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, oh, good. Let me put some stuff together and I'll get back to you. You weren't ready?
Right, yeah.
You're soliciting business, but you don't have a package to send me right away or information about what you do? So that's a big red flag saying this person has no idea what she's doing. She just sent me this message that got my attention.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate when you don't have those things, put together. So one of the things I discovered playing around today, which I just added in my LinkedIn profile, let me jump to that real quick so I can show everybody, is I went to LinkedIn and here's Ted playing in my LinkedIn profile because now that's where the video now plays. But I just added this one new box here, and it's called it's Linktree. It's linktr.ee/bacon guy is mine. And what it does is it basically allows you to, so right there from LinkedIn, I've got a link to the products I use, the Bacon Podcast. You can go find Ted, the Bacon Coffee Lives, this stuff, all of my social media and everything all put together. And it's kind of, I just started it today. I was just playing with it, and it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. It makes it super easy to see everything in one fell swoop because I'm a complex dude. I speak, I'm an author. I got LinkedIn side of stuff. I've got my B2b side of stuff. I've got, there's, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Google Plus.
Right.
I'm still on Google Plus, even though it's not there. But, all these different social media platforms.
Yeah.
It's having one repository to let people know where they want to choose from. That's one thing.
I'll have to look at mine. I actually set it up a long time ago in my Instagram and probably haven't looked at it in over a year.
Yeah, and that's the thing about these tools is new tools come, new tools go. So what have you seen that's excited you recently? What kind of things are you finding? What cool new thing can people find from Ted this morning that maybe they don't know about?
Oh, putting me on the spot.
Of course, dude. Well,
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just engaging with people on LinkedIn and kind of going back to the old school.
Mm-hmm.
Just have conversations with people. And I'm not accepting invitations from people unless I saw them on a show like this,
mm-hmm.
or we do virtual events, those kind of things. Or, when I used to go speaking at events, if I met people there, I said, hey, if you want to connect with me, let me know you saw me at this event and I'll accept your invitation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you were saying earlier, if you have some kind of connection with the person, you actually saw them or spoke to them virtually or in person, those kind of connections are so much more powerful.
Right. And that's very true. And I think, one of the things that you're talking about too, is when you're connecting up with somebody, if you're not connecting, the one thing about LinkedIn is you can connect up with first, second, and third level connections. You can't message those people. That's one of the, if you get Sales Navigator, you can message everybody. Yeah. But you can connect with anybody. And when you're connecting with those people, it's always a good idea if you want them to actually connect with you and engage with you. I think, the connection strategy should be, A, do I really know this person? Or
Right.
B, does somebody I know really know this person well? It's not just going through somebody who's like, hey, we have 5, current connections. I get people all the time coming to me and saying, hey, I'd like you to introduce me to so-and-so. And it's like, I don't really know them. It's
Right.
like, I can't connect you because they connected with me and I haven't cleaned it out.
There used to be a big feature on LinkedIn. Let's introduce each other.
Right. And that's something else that I love to do. It's like if I do it all the time. Everybody's been on this podcast or in LinkedIn Live. It's like Kathy Guggenauer talks about virtual assistants. I'm constantly doing LinkedIn connections. It's like, hey, somebody says to me, tell me about your VAs. And it's like, I get them from Kathy. I do a message and I say, hey, Kathy, meet so-and-so and so-and-so meet so-and-so. And, there's a LinkedIn connection. Let me know how I can help. And those two are talking to each other. I'm still in the loop of that.
Right.
So I'm using it as a tool to make those connections. And that's, I think, really where people are missing the point. When you connect with somebody, you should put in context inside, do a note, even a third level connection. So I wanted to talk to you about,
we have something in common. Let's connect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was one guy, the guy I was talking to yesterday, in Lunch Club, I connected, I said, send me a LinkedIn connection. His name was so common, I couldn't find him. I said, Brian Basilico, Ted Prodromou, Prodromou, we're easy to find. We've got, unique enough names that we're not very hard. But when you get somebody like, John Smith, it's near impossible. So I said, send me a connection. And as we were talking yesterday, we were talking about the audio and podcasts and stuff like that. And I said, I'm coming up on episode 666. I need somebody to interview on that. I either interview somebody on episode 666 or I treat it like the 13th floor in a hotel, and he says, yeah, dude, I got this guy out here. He's with, it's called Liquid Hell. And they have the most, insane marketing campaign. And it's like, and what is it? It's water. I thought it might've been hot sauce. No, it's water. It's like called Liquid Hell. And they've got this huge, I said, okay. So I connected with the guy and I said, hey, I'm talking to Chris, and, put his last name in and said, he recommended I contact you about maybe having you on my podcast. So we'll see what the guy says, who knows if he uses it or not, but it was just one of those kind of oddball things. It's like, if you're going to interview somebody from 666, they must have some kind of connection to the afterlife, right?
Right. One of the things I changed a few months ago was, instead of a connect button, I switched mine to just follow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's one of the updates coming from LinkedIn. They said they're going to do that by default for everybody.
Yeah, and I get a lot of follows where people follow me, but I really meant to connect with them or wanted them to connect with me. And that's one of the challenges, is you accept, somebody can follow you, but there's no connection there. It seems like you're connected, but they're just watching your stuff.
Yeah, I used to get 30 to 40 invitations a day.
To connect?
Now that I turned that off, I get like 5, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and I don't accept any connections unless there is that, hey, I know Ted and Ted recommended we get together, or, hey, I saw you on Ted's show. Right. There's got to be some kind of connection, because the ones that I get the most of is because of the business that I run, which is, I do websites and those kind of things. Is I get a lot of people from India hitting me up all the time. It's like, hey, we can do your website for $20. It's like, no, thanks. Yeah, I one guy called me up yesterday. It was awesome. Just random cold call. I pick up and play with the people with the car warranties every once in a while. And so and this guy calls me up, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody Indian, but he goes, hello, this is Johnny, and we noticed that you have a website, evernoteforbusiness.com, and it has no website on there. And I said, dude, let me tell you something. I'm in the website business. My website is live, and you're selling me crap, and you are just about as unreliable and unbelievable as they come. Because if you can't tell me my website is live when it's live, and you're telling me it's got all this other stuff, you've never looked at it. And I would never work with anybody like you, because you're a scammer. He says, I am not a scammer. Click, bye.
I get the guys to say, your wife's website is beautiful, but.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But if you're going to take the time to phone call somebody, wouldn't you want to at least do some research? And then that's exactly the point of everything that we do on LinkedIn.
Right.
If you're going to connect with somebody, even when I meet people on Lunch Club, I go look at their LinkedIn profile. I see where they worked. I see what their hobbies are. I go to their website. I look at their business. It's like.
Well, like the woman yesterday, she's sending emails out soliciting business. Somebody's interested in, well, I'll get it back to you. I don't have anything to sell you.
Yeah. It's like, if you're going to spend the time, do some research, understand what you're talking to. It's you're right. I get 1 million people that come to me, offering me LinkedIn training, right. And it's like, dude, you're missing the boat on LinkedIn. You're not understanding how powerful it is. It's like, dude, I've been on LinkedIn since 2004. I was one of the first 1,000 people in here. Tell me something I don't know. The only person who can tell me something I don't know is you.
People that they're so focused on making one sale,
right?
If they just take some time and build a relationship, you're going to get multiple sales and referrals.
Yeah, but also know who the heck you're talking to,
right?
Understand what their background is. Get to know them a little
bit, or
bit.
Follow up with people. I get trying to get solar a couple of years ago, and I got all these people interested. They gave me a proposal. Not one person followed up afterwards. I emailed you. They didn't even bring it over or mail it to me. Like, they emailed me the proposal. One actually responded.
Wow.
And they followed up like a week later. Hey, you got any questions? And we went with them. Unfortunately, they went bankrupt, and now we're like out $10,000 and no solar. But
oh my goodness, that sucks. Oh man, and there's no way to get a hold of that money back.
And all the other people were just so sleazy, and they never followed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to reach out to some more people. it's horrible.
Well,
Salespeople, a little phone call or an email. Hey, got any questions?
yeah, I've gotten, that's one of the things about the new world of we don't have time to get into this. Maybe we could do it again, Ted, another time. But just the selling side of things. I was in a BNI group, and there were solar people just like this clamoring to get in there. And the one solar guy that got in there, used to run Jimmy John's, and then he ended up selling solar. And at this point, if you wanted to find him selling solar, it's gone. Right. And the reason is because everybody, it's like they're treating solar energy like an MLM. It's like, come on in. If you come in, you can you're getting under sales and all this other stuff. And then you realize how hard it is to convince a consumer to drop $24,000 or $50,000 on putting solar on her roof. And they come in with these great numbers, and I'm like poking holes in the math. I said, dude, I'm not going to buy because we're selling our house. I know how long it takes. But I said, sell me. I want to go through your sales process. I want to see what it takes. And the numbers he gives you are really great. He's like, hey, based on, what you're paying for your ComEd, you could save X amount of dollars. And, you actually would get your electric for free. Yeah, you get your electric for free, but you got to pay $25,000 up front.
In 20 years, it'll be free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, when you start doing the math, and the problem is that, they're not there to sustain. You're not working with a business that's been established, that has, it's just a different way of doing things. Right.
Yep. Just following up with people and asking more questions and seeing if they have questions. Nope, they blast messages at us, and if we don't buy, they just keep blasting at other people.
Right. So if you were, because we're getting towards the end here, we've got about 4 minutes left. So, number one, I'm going to put up your banner that I made you, and that is, so if anybody's got any questions, feel free to contact Ted at yourlinkedincoach.com. That'll lead you to all of his stuff. So tell us a little bit about, what's got you excited? What are your final thoughts to talk about today about LinkedIn and what's coming down the pike, or, what do we need to think about in using it now?
It's actually, the pandemic's been great for my business because everybody else is going in one direction. They blast, use the software and just blast away. Mm-hmm. Where you and I, it's more about starting a couple conversations a day with people on LinkedIn, real conversations.
Absolutely.
That lead to relationships, which may or may not lead to business, but it's much better. You get much better clients when you do get clients. But it doesn't take longer than, you can set up that software and blast away all day. But if you don't follow up, I've had people blast messages at me and I reply and say, hey, I'm interested, just to kind of go through their sales process.
Yeah.
They don't follow up. Said, hey, I raised my hand. I'm ready to buy your product. And they don't get back to you. Yeah,
well, and I think a lot of that is because they've automated it so much that, and there's no human being behind the process. That's one of the things I tell people is like, if you're going to hire a virtual assistant to manage your social media, I don't care if it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. It's cool that you got somebody out there using Hootsuite or Plannable or something to broadcast this stuff. Yeah. But if you're not logging in every single day as yourself to respond to the people who actually engage with your messages, you're missing the boat. You're never going to sell anything by just having the messages out there. You need to have a conversation. Here's a bottom line. There are two things that people don't understand. Number one, there's never been a company in the history of the world that's ever bought anything. All right. It's always a human being.
Right.
Companies cannot write POs. Companies cannot write checks. Companies do not engage with people. That's number one. And the second thing that you have to realize is that, it takes time to build a relationship long enough for get somebody to trust you, because especially in the business to business world.
Yeah.
We are in a position where I always say the difference between consumer marketing and business to business marketing is consumer marketing. If you make a mistake, you buy the wrong roll of toilet paper or wrong spaghetti or something like that, you may sleep on the couch, right? If you do that in a business sense, if you buy the wrong toilet paper or the wrong something like that, it affects your job, and you may be sleeping in a homeless shelter because you are no longer employed. So the fact that the stakes are much higher in business sales because you're dealing with people's careers and their jobs and their livelihoods and, their self-esteem, it takes so much longer to establish that know, like, and trust than it does on the other side. Right.
If you treat LinkedIn like It's like one-way conversation with one
Mm-hmm.
person, one-to-one. You're at Starbucks having a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That's what LinkedIn is for. But if you need 100 leads, you need to go to one-to-many. You run ads, and then you just throw out the blanket and let people come to your ads. But
Right.
treat LinkedIn where it's a one-to-one, like you're at a networking event or having a cup of coffee with a friend.
Right, but back to that lady who contacted you and didn't have anything set. She didn't have the back end funnel ready to go. So if you're doing those one-on-one conversations and you're not ready for it, get yourself prepped first, right?
Right. Yeah. If product's not ready to sell, what are you out there sending messages for?
Exactly. Yep.
And you got a good message. Actually got my attention.
Exactly. So one more time, thank you, Ted, for coming on. If you guys want to reach out to Ted, go to yourlinkedincoach.com and connect with Ted online on LinkedIn.
And mention you saw me on this show, or I probably won't accept your invitation.
well, bacon and coffee, baby, because it's all about the bacon and the coffee. So with that being said, my friend, I'm going to call this, and thank you again for coming on. It was fun. It went fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It always goes fast. So that's the thing I love about it. So I'm going to put us out with some, energized caffeine infused bacon music. And Ted, thank you again, man. I look forward to connecting with you again soon, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you.